Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Wednesday afternoon here on Kobold Press. Late start because of tech goblins, but we got it sorted out. We're excited to be back here talking about our current Kickstarter, The Waste of Chaos. But this week, you don't have to just listen to me talk about it. I brought along two accomplices. There they are, who are going to help me out because they actually contributed to this project. Ho ho! So it's not just not figuring it all out, but actually getting to talk to some of the designers who have made the project possible. So let's go and introduce ourselves. We'll go Brian and Sarah. Tell us who you are, and without spoiling too much too fast, tell us maybe what you contributed to the Waste of Chaos project. So Brian, you're up.
Oh, I'm first. Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Brian Suskind. I'm one of Kobold's designers, and let's see for this project. I'm going to preface this by saying Sarah did a lot more on this than I did. You know, to give her full props because Sarah deserves all the props.
Agreed.
For this, I actually did a various things sort of scattered throughout the book. I designed the new synth race, Wasteland, Dragonborn. Several subclasses, many items, including the Armageddon sphere, because, you know, why not have something that will blow up an entire country?
Yeah, why not?
Because, you know, some people like that kind of thing. And I did a particularly wonderful lair, which I think we'll probably talk about at some point during this interview. No spoilers yet. Yeah, so I think we'll get into the various things. It'd probably take too long to list all of them, but
yeah. Never. That's why we're here. Next up, Sarah. Introduce yourself and the same question. Maybe what did you contribute?
Hi, I'm Sarah Madsen. I wrote a bunch of stuff for this, actually. I did a couple of the locations that you're going to find in the book. I did several of the monsters. I did a bunch of magic. I did a bunch of magic items and like tech things, like fun items to throw into your game. I did one of the ranger subclasses. And 2 adventures for the Tales from the Waste. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, I think it's called the Tales from the Waste. Yeah, the collection of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Why not?
Nice.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. So, for those of you that don't know about this Kickstarter, I should be able to do this. Not as fancy as I originally set up, but fancy enough. Here is our current Kickstarter, and y'all, we are so close to the next goal. In fact, this is a real close because I believe our next stretch goal is 170. Maybe I'm incorrect about that, but let's check really quick. I'm gonna scroll past all the fun stuff. We talked about this last week. Yeah, 180. So we are a little bit farther away, but that's okay. Don't fret. We still have a few days left on this project, which means you have a chance to still back it if you haven't already. And hopefully our chat from last week and the chat we're going to have today will sway you and help you better understand what you can expect from this Kickstarter, because I have found this one's particularly unique in that it's not just a setting, it is a setting guide, which means that you have an opportunity to kind of build your own off the fantastic ideas of our designers. And so, speaking of those 2 designers here today, you're going to get to see, based on the list they just gave us, some of what that actually is. Now, we have our own Midgard Wasted West, of course, and I imagine some of that seeded some of the fire and fuel behind this project specifically. But I want to know, because I love apocalyptic settings. So I've picked Wolfgang's brain about a variety of things, but I want to hear from the both of you about when you start writing for something like this, where you're not saying these are the hard and fast rules of how this world exists, but here are the tools in a toolbox, and not just any toolbox. This kind of wasted. Oh, love to see the number go up. Wasted, kind of apocalyptic opportunity. Right, the sandbox option. Where did you start? How do you start, kind of coming up with your ideas and making a fantasy setting in this way?
Well, I mean, personally, I started again by pulling out the World Book and looking at the Wasted West for Kobold Press and kind of seeing, you know, I had seen it before, but kind of looking at it again, seeing what they had done with that. And then just playing with the idea of like all the myriad and horrible ways that a wasteland could go terribly wrong, and all of the awful things and really amazing but also awful things that you would find there. And so just getting to play around in that sort of setting is a lot of fun because you can just sort of go a little wild with it.
Yeah.
And the idea that we were including like alien tech kind of things
Yeah,
where it
tech
was
was
like,
it's definitely one of the more interesting aspects of this, which I love actually.
yeah, so it's like you can come at it from so many different angles, right? You can come at it from like the Mad Maxy style, like wastelands. You can come at it from like the like blasted alien wasteland where you're digging up like all of this technology that like is high tech for you, but maybe ancient for the civilization that dropped
Mhm.
it there, right? But then you also have like a lot of the concepts of the void and the Cthulhu, like eldritch horror
Yeah,
aspect
yep.
that you can pull in. So it's like it's a lot of fun to go. I definitely went in like a bunch of different directions with it. So yeah.
Did you draw inspiration, from, like, do you have a favorite apocalyptic kind of vibe? Or, like, are there things you pulled from that really inspire you for that
Oh
kind of
gosh.
setting?
I don't think I had anything specifically that I was like, "Oh, yeah, I absolutely wanna put this in there," but just sort of, like, kind of letting all of those different settings sort of inform what I was doing, and then being able to riff off of those. So, yeah.
I mean, for
Nice.
me, I think I started. I mean, I always sort of start with Midgard because I've been working on it forever. So it's like, and call out to all of our Midgard fans. Yeah, if this is a setting neutral book, but come on, I mean,
Yeah, I told him last week, I was like, "If you really wanna play Wasted West, this is only gonna make your games more
yeah,
awesome." Like,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
I always write stuff for Kobold Press. Even if we filed the serial numbers off, I'm always thinking Midgard. So, I mean, I thought about the Wasted West. I thought of the Red Wastes, which are
Yep.
toward Kendiria. I thought of, the stuff that's going on in the Southlands. Um, yeah, and with the I was thinking Angelian ruins and
Mhm.
Tech and all kinds of stuff. Um, I think that if I were to close my eyes and think about like an apocalyptical setting, stupidly the first one that pops into my head is Thundar the Barbarian. Because that's what the cartoon
Yeah.
I grew up on it. Because I mean, he had a lightsaber, and it was cool when I was, like 8. Um, and so there's always that sort of in the back of my head is this weird Thundar vibe, which is a pretty goofy show. If now that I've gone back as an adult and looked at it, gone, wow, I like this, huh? Um, but there, I think in any wasteland setting, even though it's scary and it's full of horrors, there's a level of weirdness that
Mhm.
sort of like that's what sort of separates a horror environment from a wasteland. Is the sort of it's so strange, even if you're going alien strange or if you're going magical strange, the weirdness is the thing that really kind of drives home the tropes of the setting.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually really love that, the weirdness of it. I'm drawn to that, Brian. uh yeah, that's very cool. And even then, like we have this show running right now where we've kind of gone this cowboys aliens vibe, cowboys versus aliens, where there's like high tech in a western setting, right? Gunslinging sorcerers and all kinds of like weird stuff. And yeah, it's interesting to see how really such a smorgasbord of cool ideas can be so usable across such
Mhm.
a variety of like ways, really. So neat. So I will tell the audience, I forgot to mention at the top, we are going to take questions. So if you have them throughout this, I tend to find that it's a more dynamic conversation if you just ask them why you got them. So ask them why you got them.
Yeah.
Ask them if you got them. And I'll get them. We'll get them. Try to get them answered for you. But really, my next question is a little bit more around your contributions to the kind of second book in this collection for Race of Chaos, which is not just this guidebook or this handy tool guide, but it is also what we're calling Tales from the Waste, which is a collection of adventures. Really, is what it is, or like campaigns that you can run using what's in Waste of Chaos. So I wanted to see if you both wanted to talk a little bit about what you wrote for this and where all that came from.
I think Sarah should go first because she wrote 2, and I'll go right in between them. That way,
Okay,
Okay. We'll
perfect. Well, yeah,
alternate.
we'll
Okay.
ping
Okay.
pong back. I love it.
yeah,
So yeah, as Brian said, I wrote 2 adventures for the Waste of Chaos. So the first one I wrote, I call Strange Alchemy, and it's sort of set in the River of Alchemy setting, which I wrote
Oh,
also for the book, which is, as it might say in the name, it's a big river, and it's all sorts of crazy alchemical reactions happening, and unpredictable things come out of the river, and it can be a boon, but also a curse, because
yeah.
alchemy makes great things, but also terrible things. So
Oof.
basically, the characters are, the basic plot hook is go get this item that theoretically is somewhere in the River of Alchemy, and it's this really powerful, cool artifact thing. And I'm sure you'll be fine because you're adventurers and you've got this. Bye. Um, so yeah, that was a lot of fun to write, just because the river itself presents a lot of interesting challenges. It sounds easy, right? It's a river.
Right.
Surely you can avoid that. But no, it doesn't work that way. So I'm trying not
Yeah.
to give too many details, so I'm a little bit vague. But yeah, so that one's a lot of fun.
All right, cool. What about yours, Brian?
So mine's called The Shattered Halls of the Fallen Star, and it's sort of my homage to the Expedition of Barrier Peaks.
Oh.
Um, I was handed a map that showed sort of a crashed spaceship, and they're like, "And go!" And so I was like, "All right, here we go." And so in this adventure, it's for fifth level characters, and the lead in is I give sort of a variety of different ways you can get wrapped up into it, but the general gist is that there are these robots roaming around stealing people, and you're trying to track down what the heck is happening. And you have to explore this crashed ship. There's a lot of like futuristic tech that's all gone wrong
Sure.
because it's all a wreck. And I really was careful about making it feel still fantasy without
Mm-hmm.
being like, and here's a CD player, or here, I didn't want
Yeah,
to make it
yeah,
sound,
yeah.
and it was interesting trying to do wrecked things because I had to almost like figure out like what did it do first, and
Yeah,
now what is
before it
happening,
was, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
and there's some shenanigans with maybe some mind transference. There's some shenanigans with mutations that could happen. I put some puzzles in there for trying to get through various
Ooh.
doors. I don't want to, make people who hated Barrier Peaks twitch too much, but there are colored cards that you need to get through certain doors just to, because
Really
that
drive it
adventure,
home.
yeah, really drive that comparison home. And it's a tragic story in a way. Like when you uncover the story behind it, which I don't want to give anything away. There's sort of a, the bad guy maybe isn't, maybe he's understandable why the bad guy is doing the things he's doing.
Always love a good question whether or not the bad guy's really the bad guy.
Well, no
This, you know
bad
what?
guy is ever bad in their own heads.
In
They
their own
always think
heads.
they're doing good.
Wait, was this here? I literally feel like I have this conversation every time I go live somewhere about the Thanos effect, which is like,
Oh yeah.
was Thanos wrong? Was
Right.
Thanos wrong? Some people don't think Thanos is wrong, and that's okay. Like, there's the different perspective for that idea of like the acclaimed bad guy really doesn't see his perspective as bad at all. He believes he's saving so many people. Man, that's deep and dark. Actually, check it out. I found nope, wrong one. This one. I found the table of contents actually for the
hey.
book. This is a fresh post for over on the Kickstarter, and it looks like we've got
Nice.
a nice little like listing here. So I think it's like 12 adventures, 14, excuse me, more with stretch goals. That's right. And the cover is so cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Very cool. But yeah, I imagine both your names. Oh, look at that. There's a Sarah
There's
Madsen.
me.
Oh, look, there's a Brian. Now speaking of, I guess Sarah, you'd be down here twice because you said you wrote 2 of them.
Yep, right underneath Brian there. Yeah,
Yep.
Whispers of the Tumultuous Dark.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
So I was actually kind of jealous about Brian's adventure name, but I feel like this one's pretty good. But yeah, this one.
You rocked it. That's great.
This one. This one's set near the Raw Chaos Portal, which is one of the other locations in the book. which I had a ton of fun writing because it's a portal of raw chaos and it does all sorts of wild and crazy things. But this one sort of centers around a cult that has taken up residence near said chaos portal. Because if you have something as crazy as a chaos portal, of course you're going to have a cult that worships it, right?
Of course, yeah.
Of course,
Weird
of course
draws
you are.
weird. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And so a woman goes missing, and the characters are sent to find her and bring her back. And you have to sort of venture out into the wasteland around this raw chaos portal and deal with all of the unpredictability, because not only is it the portal itself is unpredictable, the area and the landscape around it is unpredictable. The effects that it has on your magics and the things that live in the area are unpredictable. It's all crazy and everything is wild.
Imagining
Yeah,
a lot
so-
of tables, a lot of chaos tables.
Yes, lots. So many chaos tables. Oh my god, so many. But yeah, and then you eventually, get to this temple that's been erected.
Yeah.
And everything in it is a little weird and bizarre. So it's a lot of fun and I definitely squicked myself out a couple of times writing some things.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
So yeah.
I feel that. All right. Well, I've also found, I guess since these are adventures, there's going to be some pretty sweet maps.
Yup.
Yeah.
Check that out. I wonder if I can zoom in. Can I get closer? Oh, no. I guess I can't. Let me try.
Oh, there's the one from my adventure on the far left.
Oh,
I
this
see
one
mine
here?
too.
Oh,
Right there.
nice. Look at that. Little preview
Really cool
there.
to see these. It's cool to see these because when we get them, it's usually like a rough sketch.
Mhm.
Right.
Sometimes
Yep.
there's color, sometimes there's not.
Nice. Yeah, these are really cool. They man, we have some really great map designers, of course, which we've went in any for this year, which is pretty cool.
Woohoo.
So it says, yeah, so it kind of goes through each of these. If you want to know a little bit more, this post is available for each one of them down over on that Kickstarter link. And I believe I should be able to, I say this with such surety, drop you a link in chat. Say it with such surety. Waste. I think is what I did it as. It's been a week, everybody. I don't remember. If that doesn't work, just be waste. So yeah, I will drop a Kickstarter link one way or the other if our thing doesn't get with the program. And you can go check out not only this but the updates that are coming, because I believe I heard new updates coming for like some other special stuff. And this project too, I want to mention, has minis.
Oh yeah.
It has minis. And they are, I think we have all of them rendered so you can see what the minis will actually look like, but like 3 or 4 of them, which are the dragons that are coming. But those are coming in all the way too. So some of it comes out to only our backers, but that post there, if you want to see more about the adventures, is available for all to see.
Hey Don, is it
Yep.
true that if we get to 500,000, you're going to paint the miniatures for everybody? That's what I heard.
That's actually entirely true. Myself and my army of kittens, we will hand paint all the minis if we reach $500,000 on this Kickstarter. Hold me to it. It's now out there. You can't come back from it now. Look, I even got one here. She's ready. Look, are you ready? She's like, no, I'm napping. I'm not ready. Look,
Hi,
tell them how ready
sweetie.
you are to paint minis.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's the babe. She's actually been pretty good today. In my lap the
I'm
whole
not sure
time.
what would be more impressive. I don't know what would be more impressive: the cat painting the miniature, or you being able to teach the cat to paint the miniature.
There are some secrets the world must never know.
That's right.
Yes, kittens with hands. I've given mine opposable thumbs specifically. This is the wastelands. The one thing that cats should never have is opposable thumbs.
No.
The things that they could accomplish.
Mm-mm.
All right. So I guess speaking of back to the waste. So you both did adventures, but you have also contributed. I know, Brian, you were talking a lot about some of the racial builds and the class
Yep.
builds that kind of came through, which I skimmed the surface on last week. But since we're rounding out to like the last 9 days of this Kickstarter, I'm going to make a decision and say we can talk a smidge more about them. Because you're going to get to see actually tonight, on tonight's episode of Wasted West, some of the combat options of the characters. We're going into a bit of a combat. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about outside of the adventures, which you contributed into the actual core Waste of Chaos book.
Okay. Well, for the races, I designed the new synth race, and we were kind of thinking about like, okay, we wanted a robot or alien, like but vague. Like, could it be an alien? Sure, in your game, if you want it to be an alien, it could be an alien, or it could just be a construct. I could, Midgard has the Gear Forged, but that's much more of someone rich enough to afford a new body. But what about something that has been created this way on purpose? And so I thought about for a long time how to do a synth race, like how to do an artificial life form. And finally I decided that the way to do it that felt right was that they are blank. They're a blank slate. They come out of their fluid-filled pods, stumbling, with gasping at the cold of the real air for the first time. And all of a sudden they don't know where they came from or who they are, but they have these vague recollections. That first moment, and there's a lot of this is color that doesn't have to happen in your game, but it should. In that, like, they wander around for a while, sort of not really understanding what's happening until they have this awakening about 5 days later, where they suddenly become self-aware. And at that point, that's when they start to realize that they're a person, but they've now forgotten where they came from. So a lot of them don't remember where if they emerged from a ship or a cave or a secret lab, they don't remember where it was because they've wandered for like 5 or 10 days out into the wastelands, and they don't remember where they were. But mechanically, I started thinking, well, how do you handle an artificial life form? And first of all, with ability score increases, just them, because an artificial life form could be created for almost any purpose. So it's like increase one score by 2, increase another one by 1, increase 3 by 1 if you want. It's just you choose. So players, we're giving you options here at Kobold Press.
I like that.
And then it was, obviously they don't need to breathe or sleep or eat because they're artificial. And I finally decided, like, the thing that had occurred to me right in the beginning was, how do they heal? So they're still natural life forms, so they still get healing. Then I decided that they should have like healing nanites. They have these things in them that once per long rest, you can get back double the amount of hit points from either from a short rest or a magical healing.
Oh, nice.
Which could be really helpful, especially at high level.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot in a game that I'm currently playing, and we're all in the middle of a battle and desperate for hit points. So very helpful at this point.
Nice. We actually, Katie Asaurus is playing our automaton in the show, and is doing a fantastic job. And who knows, if you stick with us to the end, you might get to see some of those pods and strange automaton workings. That's all I will say without spoiling too much. But it's actually very cool. It's a very cool racial build in that, especially getting to see. I like I said, the only person I've seen play it is Katie, right? Because it's not even available yet. So I've only seen the one person, but Katie does a great job of kind of explaining both what part of the body is synthetic versus what looks rather normal or organic, and gets to show you kind of the way in which her maker, or her character's maker, she calls him her father, I think, built her. So I think that's very I think it's very cool. It's very cool. I like it a lot. It's very neat because I'm actually not drawn to the Gear Forge as a player, but I am super duper drawn to the automaton build, which is very cool. I like it a lot. Yes, Brian's convincing us all to be a synth. That's actually what this show's about. All right, Sarah, what about you? What did you contribute to the core book?
So I was actually mistaken. So I was talking about the Wasteland Ranger earlier, I think about, but that's actually in the Tome of Heroes.
Oh, okay.
So it's it all blends together after
Yeah.
a while.
I feel you.
But it's a wasteland based, subclass. But so for the core book, oh gosh, I did so much. Like I said, the two locations that I talked about earlier, which I then used
Mhm.
for my adventures, which were a lot of fun. I did several of the monsters, one of which is the Mire Fiend, and that was
Ooh.
sort of semi previewed on the blog, on the Kobold Press blog. It is a giant praying mantis, translucent praying mantis type creature that basically they started off as like regular insects, and then there was a spill of some sort that sort of created them and developed them into these larger, more sentient creatures who have now formed their own society. And they have a lot of cool attacks. And I think my favorite part is they have an attack that when they are getting ready to die, they basically vomit up their acidic insides at you to basically be like, fine, I'm taking you with me. So they're fun. Yeah. I don't know what other monsters. Well, we have the monsters are listed in the table of contents,
I was
right?
about to
So
say,
I
yeah,
can
yeah, and we previewed the table of
say.
contents. So yeah, as long as you don't give too much away, I believe we have at least shown the table of contents to the Kickstarter. So
Okay. So I did one that I haven't seen, so I'm not sure if it got renamed or moved somewhere else, but I did the Eldritch Horror, which is a sort of very large, very scary creature that has like regional effects and area effects that it
oh
does too.
yeah,
As it's an Eldritch
okay.
Horror, it does terrible things. I did the Slitherjack, which I know some people were very interested to hear more
Ooh.
about, which I think that the art brief for that one was something like an eel meets the now I can't remember what they're called. The things in the Matrix that have like all of the crazy tentacles that like come out.
Oh yeah, the Sentinels.
The Sentinels. So like the Sentinels in the Matrix meets like an eel creature, and I think they had a picture of that
Weird.
somewhere in the trailer. I think it was. But then the Song Spider I did as well. That one was a lot of fun because
Ooh.
I kind of went in a little bit of a different direction with that since it is a spider. It's actually just a spider, a little small creature. It's not like a crazy giant spider. It's not, it's a little guy, but it's almost scarier because then he can hide places
I
and
was
you
about to
can't
say
find
that
him.
makes me so nervous.
Yeah, he's a little boy. Yeah, so he definitely, he can again, he has or it has a like a song that it can sing and has all sorts of effects on you, and you might not know where it is because it's in a tree somewhere or under a leaf or hiding on a bookshelf. So it presents its own challenges. So yeah, I'm trying to see. And then I did a ton of like ancient magic spells and chaos spells.
I think the concept of
um
ancient magic is really cool, by the way. I don't know who
yeah,
was like, let's have some ancient magic spells, but something about the idea that not anybody can tap into this magic and that it is not even of this day and age. Right?
yes.
That it's like it's ancient. I love that idea. God, I love that idea.
And I tried to go with right, because you have chaos spells which can be all sort, like I said, so many chaos tables, so many, which you can do all sorts of wild and crazy stuff with. But with the ancient magic, I tried to go back a little bit more to like D&D roots almost,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like stronger, more powerful, more focused spells that like maybe you won't just get wandering down the street, but like if you're a mage that's spending like decades trying to perfect this
Studying.
one
Yeah,
spell
yeah,
that
yeah.
you might get. I kind of went back and took some inspiration from some old like 2E stuff that
Ooh.
isn't showing up anymore in the 5E stuff, and sort of like let that sort of inform some of the things that I did. So that was a lot of fun to sort of think about, if you are this ancient society or you're this mage that has had, or a lich that's had decades to
Mhm.
perfect this. Like,
Mhm.
what do you come up with that like your average wizard who's 7th level isn't going to be able to
Yeah, I can't possibly
necessarily?
fathom.
Yeah.
Man, that's really cool.
It's
That's really
interesting.
cool.
Like, because as we've done Kobold Press from the beginning, there's been other times where we've done ancient magics, like when we did Southlands for the first time.
Yep.
And from the archives left on the cutting room floor, when Ben and I did the first Southlands book, we dabbled for a while with trying to give the ancient titans an entirely new magic system, just to show it as like different from today. And it was
Different.
all
Mhm.
all words of power. Like, we decided like all of their magic was words of power, but we made it work, but it was really kind of unwieldy with the rule set that we had to work with at the time. And we all kind of looked at it and went, let's wait on this.
Yeah. Let's hold it until we have something better. And hey, look, here we are.
Yeah.
Rolling. That's actually very cool though. I do like that idea. You know, magic sometimes gets really washed. It's like, oh well, of course I cast magic. And it's like, but I love the idea of when we start to really dig deep into the kinds of magic and where does it come from and what does it draw from and how does it manifest if it's simply kind of the restructuring of energy and those kinds of things, like and the idea of ancient magic being a single word of a language that nobody speaks anymore,
Mhm.
right? Or like a ritual that's been studied for like 10 years to get it absolutely perfect. That kind of stuff is really, really neat. And that's such a like juicy content to your games and your table and the stories you're telling. Man, love it. Like it a lot. Well, chat, you haven't come up with any questions. So I clearly, you just want me to keep asking questions. Clearly, you just want me to keep asking questions. So now that we've heard a little bit about, I guess, each of your contributions, we talked some too about where, like, how you went about adding to this book. Is there something you're most excited about? Like, what's that juicy thing that you made that you're just like, man, this is really cool?
For me, I think it's an item. I mean,
Ooh.
I love items that give you choices.
Hmm.
And so I designed an item called the Apple of Fickle Doom, and it looks like a crystal apple with each facet is engraved with these glowing sigils, but you can bite it. Like, you can take a bite out of the apple and then you throw it, and the bite that you swallow gives you a random effect, and when it lands, it does a different random effect.
Oh
So
man.
it can give you a boon or a malediction depending on sort of how it goes.
It's
And
a
I love the idea
chaos
of these items
apple.
that, like, this could go horribly wrong, but I'm going to use it anyway.
It's yeah, worth it. Like, I mean, how many times we've been in a game where you're just like, you know what? Chips all in, baby.
Yeah.
There's no turning back now. Like, go for it. Love that kind of stuff. And it seems like one of those great magical items that you sit on, like your players get, and they're like, oh,
All
look,
right.
a pretty apple. And then when push comes to shove, somebody's like, I bite it, take a bite out of it. You know? I love
I also
that.
love the idea that they're going to, like, players sitting around looking at this thing, trying to figure out how to make it work.
Yes.
Like, I have to
Mhm.
bite it.
I have to,
Mhm.
yeah, how
No,
do
no,
I
trust me, it'll
activate
work.
it? Yeah. Very cool. What about you, sir? You have something that you're really excited about?
Yeah, mine's actually an item I made too. I made something called the Aberrant Sextant, which is
Ooh.
an artifact, and it actually is composed of several component parts that are also artifacts in their own right.
Yep.
So you have, I think there's 4 or 5 pieces that, like, this thing can be disassembled into its component parts, and those component parts each do things.
Oh.
Um, like, they each have their own magical effects that, like, if you attune to them, you get these additional whatever. And then once you assemble all these pieces together, they create the Aberrant Sextant, which in itself is like it's a planar travel type
It's like a
artifact.
yeah.
Um, and so once you combine them all together, the sextant itself does things, but then you get all the additional powers of all the other stuff. So this is really powerful artifact. And I can just picture a lot of fun for DMs. You know, you take all these pieces and you scatter them the four
Yeah.
winds, and then you send your, like, because it's a really, you want this thing and you want it to be all together because it's really strong. And so, like, you can send your players sort of on these treasure hunts to find all the pieces of the Aberrant Sextant.
It's like an
and sort of
adventure in itself.
yeah, and then like, seeding in the lore, and they may not even know what one of the pieces is when they find it. They may not know that it goes to a larger piece until later. And um so yeah, it just has a lot of fun, juicy possibilities to it. So I'm very
Yeah,
excited.
that's really cool. I like that a lot. I like, yeah, I've always really liked magical items. There are two kind of magical items I love. The ones that my players actually use, and then the ones that have kind of a slow rollout, right? That have kind of
Mhm.
a legacy story behind them, like this item where they could be doing something totally different, but the idea that you can slow roll in pieces, or they might find one here and then another one just pops up in random conversation here, and so it's kind of a background piece until they piece it all together, and then they
Mhm.
have something
Mhm.
really, really incredible for their time and their care, and so that's also really neat. I love it. Chaos item and story items.
Mhm.
Win-win for Dot. A thumbs up. And
Now,
I believe there's quite a bunch of gear and ancient treasure in this.
and
There's
tech items.
Yeah.
Doom magic.
Yes,
Oh
there's
yeah.
a lot. There's a lot of stuff, and it's great because so much of it is just you just can pick it up and put it in your own campaign. So like we created all of these setting pieces, but it's not. I think we talked about this earlier, Dot, where it's not a setting book. It's pieces that fit into a setting that you can like pull out and put in your
Pull
own
out,
game, or you can
put
like
back
use.
together. Yeah.
Um,
Needed an ancient magic thing or a weird tech item.
mhm.
Because when we're saying tech item, it's not like you're pulling out like a laptop. I mean,
Yeah.
these are things that are definitely powered by magic. So it's not, it's not like it's not a nuclear reactor.
Right. It's a very good source book of information
Yeah.
for some of the
Mhm.
things that tend to be more, I think, obscure, that we don't know we need them till we need them. And they were like, man, I don't have that thing I need, and I think this book is full of those weird
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
items that we talked about, right? That we might not find elsewhere. I imagine, to answer that question in chat, you're a big fan of the fabled items from Vault of Magic. Great. I too am a huge fan of the fabled items. In fact, I didn't know I like fabled items until I was presented them, and I'm like, oh, I want more magic items that have deep story to them. And so the vibe I get,
Mhm.
at least from even the one that Sarah put in here, and probably a couple more, since it seems like there's a lot of gear and ancient treasure coming in this book, will probably have some bigger stories and larger ways to move them into campaigns than simply gifting them to your players. So I would like to say yes, but I can't like for sure say yes. But I'm feeling confident enough today to say yeah.
Yeah, I
The
think
other
there's
item.
there's a good number of story stuff. There's also a good number of just like, I mean, I'm just looking at the stuff I wrote.
Yeah,
It's like
I mean, like,
this is really
so
cool and
much.
complicated and neat, and then this one
Quick
is just
lines and you're
like,
done.
yeah, it's just a one and done crazy item. Yeah, so there's a good spread of stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, for
And there's
sure.
Like,
even like a section for encounters, I believe, too. So
oh
like
yeah.
if you're not really into tales, you don't run like campaigns or pre-written stuff, but you want to build some encounters. There's a bunch of like wasteland encounters section as well, so you can have easy pulls.
I mean, for me, you were talking about the items you like. I tend to like the items that have a cost. That way,
Yeah.
you're really thinking
Mm,
about
Use.
and that's a little old school, I will admit, with like because a lot of item design doesn't work that way. But like for this, I designed a lightning emitter,
Oh.
which may or may not be inspired by Ankh-Shell and places to the east. But basically, it looks like you need to picture almost the Ghostbuster proton pack
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Okay.
it doesn't look like that, but that's the easiest way to kind of think about it. And it's like you have this little emitter, and it blows up like a beam of lightning, hitting people along the way, and actually does more damage to the person at the end that you hit versus the people along the way.
Along the way, yeah.
But it only has one charge, which is kind of annoying, I guess. And it restores, after a long rest.
Right.
But it also has a harness, and you can connect it to another living creature, and then you get more charges. And each time you fire it, it drains hit points from that guy.
Now that's pretty cool, especially if just happen to have somebody tied down to a board or something and willingly offering themselves for as a battery. But it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm getting
Wow.
more and more Matrix vibes from this
The picture in
whole.
my head was a goblin holding it, and the harness is attached to like an ogre.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, for
behind him.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Some big guy that's just like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
He's just kind
and
of drained
drawing
out as
pain,
as
but
he's
yeah.
firing the gun over and over again.
I know. I think that's brilliant too. Again, another great item for cool storytelling. And of course a goblin would own it. Of course a goblin would own it.
They know
As
what
a
they do.
yeah, of course, of course. Well, since we have no more questions in chat, I guess we can round out a little early today. But I do want to remind everyone you only have 9 days left to back the Kickstarter. So if you've been
9
on the
days.
fence, I encourage you to go watch last week's episode as well. It is already up on YouTube. It went up this morning. As I kind of digitally unbox the Kickstarter for you. And then today you got a little bit of a deep dive. We're going to have some more writers joining us next week as well to talk about their contributions and what you can expect. So week by week, we're going to slowly unravel and unroll more for you. But do not fret. If you are just not sold and you need a little extra push, come on by tonight to Realmsmith TV. You can hit us on YouTube or over on Twitch. And you can watch us play some of this. We're going to have nice combat tonight, so you're going to get to see some of those rules in action, some of that new magic, those new racial builds happening in a kind of dusty, apocalyptic Wild West situation. Bandits have rolled into town, everybody, and it ain't big enough for all of us. So we're going to take care of the problem, but you can drop by. That's 8 p.m. tonight. And next week, we're going to start launching a kind of fun show over the remainder of the Wasted West. So it's 7 p.m. Eastern. That would be 4 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be here on Wednesday nights, and I'm going to invite one of the cast members over, and we're going to do a pre-show chat all about their experience using and building this character that they got to play. We're going to sit down and just kind of have a rough and rowdy time in a saloon beforehand, and then right at 8 o'clock we're going to go over and raid Realmsmith TV so that we can catch the new episode. So you can expect that starting up next week. And I know who's first on my list. I feel like Alexander's on the chopping block. Our own COO is coming in, and he actually played one of my favorite rogue builds I've seen in a super duper long time. I just want to put that out there. There's a very interesting rogue class option in the Waste book, and I am obsessed with it. I'm already waiting for my opportunity to get to play. I'm not spoiling it because Alexander and I are going to talk about it, Brian. But it could possibly. I might have hinted at it last week, so I guess I might have spilled the beans already. I'm so bad.
Sarah and I are meanwhile sitting here thinking, is that the one that I did?
I did a rogue, but I play rogues like all the time, so I'm like, really?
Yes.
Tell me about this.
I'll tell you this. It has some really cool options for a healer, a build for a healer rogue, which is very cool. That's all I'll say. It has this kind of it's really neat. That being said, we're going to get out of here. We will see you all next week. Same Kobold time, same Kobold channel, as we continue our Kickstarter for the Wastes of Chaos. If nothing else, I will see you at 8 p.m. tonight for Tales from the Wasted West. Pew pew. As we go into a post-apocalyptic Wild West setting. Until next time, everybody. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Sarah, for dropping by. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Bye.